Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Programming your subconscious mind to go after what you really desire is similar to hypnotizing yourself. And in the best-selling book Psycho-Cybernetics, which I recommend that you get and do the work in it yourself, Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a chapter called Dehypnotize Yourself from False Beliefs. And Dr. Maltz writes that Dr. Alfred Adler, psychotherapist and founder of the School of Individual Psychology, had an experience when he was a young boy that illustrates just how powerful belief can be on behavior and ability. Dr. Adler got off to a bad start in arithmetic, and his teacher became convinced that he was so-called dumb in mathematics. The teacher then advised the parents of what she thought was a fact and told them not to expect too much of him. So the parents were convinced. Adler passively accepted the evaluation that they had placed on him, and his grades in arithmetic proved that they had been correct. Isn't that interesting? The teacher became convinced the student was dumb in math. The teacher advised the parents that this was a fact, and the parents were convinced, and then they told the child, and the child is convinced, and the grades proved that fact. Everything that we think about, we bring about. If we believe that we are dumb in math, it's going to play out in real life. I know people who have said, I am dumb in life, I can't do my taxes, and that is true. You've heard if a person believes they can or they can't, they are right. Well, if you grew up believing something like that, like you're dumb in math or you can't do science because you're a girl, or that you don't need to know physics because you're going to never use it in real life, then that becomes part of your life. It's just accepted as a fact, and it doesn't have to be that way. So one day, Dr. Alfred Adler, as a child, had a sudden flash of insight, and he saw how to work a problem that the teacher put on the board, and none of the other pupils could work it out. He announced that to the teacher. She and the whole class laughed. Dr. Maltz writes, whereupon Adler became indignant, strode to the blackboard and worked the problem, much to their amazement. In doing so, he realized that he could understand arithmetic. He was not dumb in math. He felt a new confidence in his ability, and he went on to become a good math student. Dr. Adler's experience was much like a patient of Dr. Maltz's, a businessman who wanted to excel in public speaking because he had a vital message to impart about his understanding success in a difficult field. He had a good voice and an important topic to talk about, but he was not able to get up in front of strangers and tell them about his message. What held him back was his belief that he could not make a good talk and that he would fail to impress his audience simply because he did not have an imposing appearance. He thought he did not look like a successful executive. This belief had buried so deeply into him that it threw up a roadblock every time he stood up before a group of people and began to talk. He mistakenly concluded that if he could have an operation to improve his appearance, he would then gain the confidence he needed. Now, Dr. Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon, and he noticed that sometimes people came to him and he changed their appearance and they gained confidence in themselves. They had changed their self-image. And sometimes, no matter how much he changed their appearance and they looked beautiful on the outside, they still thought they were ugly or whatever they thought about themselves. Even if they looked in the mirror, they were still convinced that the operation didn't work, that they were ugly, that no one would love them. So Dr. Maltz wrote this book, Psychocybernetics, based on his experience with some patients feeling beautiful and confident and others not, even though they had undergone plastic surgery. So he noticed that in this man, he said what held him back was his belief that he could not make a good talk and would fail to impress his audience simply because he did not have an imposing appearance. He didn't think he looked like a successful executive. So he came to Dr. Maltz. He mistakenly concluded that if he could have a plastic surgery operation to improve his appearance, then he would gain the confidence he needed. An operation might have done the trick and it might not, but Dr. Maltz's experience with other patients had shown that physical change did not always guarantee personality change. The solution in this man's case was found when he became convinced that his negative belief was preventing him from delivering the vital information he had. He succeeded in replacing the negative belief with a positive belief that he had a message of extreme importance that he alone could deliver, no matter what he looked like. And in due time, he was one of the most sought after speakers in the business world. The only change was in his belief and in his own self-image. Now, the point that Dr. Maltz wants to make is that Adler had been hypnotized by a false belief about himself, not figuratively, but literally and actually hypnotized. The power of hypnosis is the power of belief. Dr. Barber's explanation of the power of hypnosis, that they found that hypnotic subjects were able to do surprising things only when convinced that the hypnotist's words are true statements. When the hypnotist has guided the subject to the point where he is convinced that the hypnotist's words are true statements, then the subject behaves differently because he thinks and believes differently. The important thing for you to remember is that it does not matter in the least how you got the idea or where it came from. You may never have met a professional hypnotist. You may never have been formally hypnotized. But if you accepted an idea from yourself, your teachers, your parents, friends, advertisements, from any other source, and further, if you are firmly convinced that the idea is true, then it has the same power over you as the hypnotist's words have over a hypnotized subject. Scientific research has shown that Dr. Adler's experience was not chance, it was not 1 in a million, but it's typical of practically all students who make poor grades. In the first chapter of Psychocybernetics, Dr. Maltz tells of how Prescott Leckie had brought about almost miraculous improvement in the grades of school children by showing them how to change their self-image. After thousands of experiments and many years of research, Lecky concluded that poor grades in school are in almost every case due in some degree to the student's self-conception and self-definition. The students had been literally hypnotized by such ideas like, I am dumb, I have a weak personality, I am poor in arithmetic, I am naturally a poor speller, I'm ugly, I do not have a mechanical type of mind. With such self-definitions, the student had to make poor grades in order to be true to himself. Unconsciously, making poor grades became a moral issue with him. It would be as wrong from his own viewpoint for him to make good grades as it would be to steal if he defines himself as an honest person. So what you really want, if you self-hypnotize yourself, that it's available to you, that it is yours, that it's possible, and you do that through repetition, through saying words to yourself until you believe them. It could be, I am great in mathematics. I easily sort out mechanical problems. I live in a vitally healthy, strong, fit body. I am wealthy. I am in a loving relationship. Whatever it is that you really want, you must convince yourself. You must self-hypnotize yourself. And that comes through saying affirmations until you believe it, writing it out, thinking about it, visualizing it in your mind, not thinking about what you want and then saying, oh, that's never going to happen, because the universe says your wish is my command. If you say it's never going to happen, for sure it's never going to happen. You must see yourself in the picture, what it would feel like. Bob Proctor taught me it's about thinking from the end, getting a picture in your imagination of what you truly desire. A fit, healthy, active body, being good in mathematics, getting good grades as a student, having a loving relationship, starting a successful business, leaving a legacy. It doesn't matter what you want. You must change your self-image, and you must convince yourself. You start out with, well, is it possible for other people to do that? If it's a possibility within the bounds of nature, and it's legal and moral, and if it's possible for another person, then it's possible for you. And you just need to get some of your old disempowering beliefs that you can't out of the way. It comes down to belief. There's another story, the case of the hypnotized salesman. In the book Secrets of Successful Selling, John D. Murphy tells how Elmer Wheeler used Lecky's theory to increase the earnings of a certain salesman. Elmer Wheeler had been called in as a sales consultant to a certain firm. The sales manager called his attention to a very remarkable case. A certain salesman always managed to make almost exactly $5,000 per year, regardless of the territory they assigned him or the commission he was paid. Because the salesman had done well in a rather small territory, he had been given a larger and much better territory. But the next year, his commission amounted to almost the same amount as that he had made in the smaller one, $5,000. The following year, the company increased the commission paid to all salesmen, but this salesman still managed to make only $5,000. He was then assigned one of the company's poorest territories, and again, he made the usual $5,000. Wheeler had a talk with this salesman and found the trouble was not in the territory, but in the salesman's own evaluation of himself. He thought of himself as a $5,000 per year man, and as long as he held that concept of himself, outside conditions didn't seem to matter much at all. When he was assigned a poor territory, he worked hard to make that $5,000. When he was assigned a good territory, he found all sorts of excuses to coast when the $5,000 was in sight. Once, when the goal had been reached, he got sick and he was not able to work any more that year, even though doctors could find nothing wrong with him. And he miraculously recovered by the first of the next year after making that $5,000. So you can cure your inferiority complex if you've told yourself, I can't, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it, or other people can and I can't. These are all self-limiting ideas. I think most people have inferiority complexes, or they have feelings of inferiority to some extent in some areas of their life, but it can become a serious handicap to success and happiness. Dr. Maltz says inferiority and superiority, pardon me, inferiority and superiority are reverse sides of the same coin. The cure lies in realizing that the coin itself is spurious. The truth about you is you are not inferior, you are not superior, you are simply you. You as a personality are not in competition with any other personality simply because there is no one else on the face of the earth like you. You are an individual. You are unique. You are not like any other person, and you never can be like any other person. You're not supposed to be like any other person, and no one else is supposed to be like you. God did not create a standard person and in some way label that person by saying this is it. He made every human being individual and unique, just as he made every snowflake individual and unique. You are God's highest form of creation. You want to stop measuring yourself against society, against other people's standards. Physical relaxation plays a role in the dehypnotizing process. The current beliefs that we hold, whether good or bad, true or false, were formed without effort, with no strain or stress, and without the exercise of willpower. Our habits, whether good or bad, were formed in the same way. It follows that we must employ the same process in forming new beliefs or new habits, and that is in a relaxed condition. In psychocybernetics, Dr. Maxwell Maltz talks about that it's been amply demonstrated that attempting to use effort or willpower to change beliefs or to cure bad habits actually has an adverse rather than a beneficial effect. Émile Coué, the little French pharmacist who astonished the world around 1920 with the results he obtained with the power of suggestion, insisted that effort was the one big reason why most people failed to use their inner powers. The ideal that you want, your goal, your deep desire, must be a suggestion made without effort if it's going to be effective. Another famous Coué saying was his law of reversed effort. When the will and the imagination are in conflict, the imagination invariably wins the day. Effort is one of the biggest deterrents to either breaking a bad habit or learning a new one. Making an effort to refrain from the habit actually reinforces the habit. Experiments have proved that the best way to break a habit is to form a clear mental image of the desired end result and practice without effort toward reaching that goal. Dr. Knight Dunlap, a psychologist and past president of the American Psychological Association, made a lifelong study of habits and learning processes, and he found that either positive practice, that's refraining from a bad habit, or negative practice, performing the habit consciously and voluntarily, would have beneficial effect providing the desired end result was kept constantly in mind. If a response habit is to be learned, or if a response pattern is to be made habitual, Dr. Dunlap wrote, it is essential that the learner shall have an idea of the response that is to be achieved, or have the idea of the change in the environment that the response will produce. You need to know what you really want. You need to visualize it. You need to imagine it, think about it, plant it in your subconscious mind. And that means getting emotionally involved with it. The important factor in learning, in short, is the thought of an objective to be obtained either as a specific behavior pattern or as a result of the behavior together with a desire for the attainment of the object. In many cases, the mere relaxation of effort or too much conscious straining is in itself enough to eradicate the negative behavior pattern. When a person has a speech disorder, it's been proven that when they can relax, they can talk. Often the effort or willpower used to fight against or resist worry is the very thing that perpetuates worry and keeps it going. Physical relaxation, when practiced daily, brings about an accompanying mental relaxation and a relaxed attitude that enables us to better consciously control our automatic mechanism. Dr. Maltz says physical relaxation in itself has a powerful influence in dehypnotizing us from negative attitudes and reaction patterns. Do you ever notice that If you want to do something, like when you quit a bad habit, I'm going to quit smoking. That's it. This is my last cigarette. I'm going to stop. I'm never going to smoke again. And then the more you tell yourself that, the more you crave it. And that's because you're focused on the smoking, not on the healthy lifestyle, the money that you'll have in the bank, how nice you'll look and smell from not smoking. You want to focus on the end goal. You want to focus on the result as if it's already yours. When a person is in debt and they focus on getting out of debt, usually the debt increases because that's where the focused attention goes. Bob Proctor always said you can't just quit a bad habit, you must replace it with a good habit. So instead of talking about quitting drinking, you want to replace alcohol with water or chewing gum or going for a walk or doing something that will lead you to a good habit rather than what you consider a bad habit. The focus must be on relaxing your body, relaxing your mind, getting into a clear picture of what you really want, visualizing yourself already there. What would it feel like? Describe to me, why do you want to be healthy, fit, and active? What would it be like if you were in a loving relationship? What are you going to do with the millions of dollars that you want? Not getting out of debt, but what is it like now that you have the time and freedom, money freedom, to enjoy that vacation? When you relax and get your body and mind into alignment with what is it like to have your goal already accomplished, that's when ideas come to you. And as you take ideas from that new point of view, from the feeling as if you're already there, that's when your life changes. Not changing conditions or circumstances, hypnotizing yourself by feeling as if you already have what you desire, understanding that getting into the feeling is the way to program your mind. Do this repeatedly. Relax and do this every single day, and soon you will be living the lifestyle that you truly desire. That's how it works. Not just thinking about it, but programming a belief into your subconscious mind through emotionalizing it repeatedly. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Create a wonderful day. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.